Look, I'm going to get this out of the way very quickly. I think that the running back room, okay, and we'll continue to say it, is very talented. I like what I don't like. I love what I'm seeing from Caleb Jackson. I do. You're limiting some of the things that Josh Williams is doing in this spring, which is going to give Caleb a lot of reps. Guys, quite honestly, you can't go into the season with 3 scholarship backs. I've heard people saying, well, Caden Durham's coming in. I love Caden Durham. Been around him in person. Talk to him. Think the dude is incredible. I think he's an alpha. Really, I do. I think he's a great leader of men. He's going to be a stud. It doesn't matter. Guys, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. You will in the spring game. You 1,000% will see in the spring game. They're not deep enough there. I don't really care about the Trey Hiley thing right now. We can talk about it, but I don't care about it. You need another back there. You're talented. Caden Durham, Josh Williams, Caleb Jackson. You're talented. You're stupid talented. You're not deep enough. Pause. But you're not. The depth at that position is an issue. And anybody that wants to argue that and say that they're not, you're a blithering idiot. I'm sorry. I feel like this take that I have with the running back depth is like my Miles Brennan takes when y'all argue me. Miles Brennan's he's going to throw for 3,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. Remember when you had people arguing me back in the day about Miles Brennan? Remember that argument? Remember how stupid those people were? And I told you that guy was a Twinkie away from being moved to tight end. You just cannot do it. You can't go into the season with 3 backs. Now, can you move somebody? Sure. If you feel like you need to. Well, you need to move them now. You got to move them now. That's all I can say. I mean, I don't know what else to say about the running back room. Talented, yes. Depth, massive issue. Maybe Malachi Lane can be the next Josh Williams. It's a big if. It's a massive if. All right. Other parts of the offense. Offensive line, Tyree Adams started at right tackle. I know that Wilson Alexander, after practice, talked about it. Me and Wilson even mentioned it when we were spoke about it when we were at practice. I was told per some sources that Emory Jones will be back soon, probably even on Saturday. But I do think that it shows something here. I do think that your 6th offensive lineman, unless it's at center, it's going to be Tyree Adams. Now, do you do something different at guard? Maybe. I don't know if you do. I think that if let's just say Garrett Dellinger, God forbid, went down, I think Emory Jones moves to guard and then Tyree Adams moves to tackle for right now. What I will tell you is I don't think that your 7th offensive lineman is here yet. I think Weston Davis is going to be the biggest steal in this entire recruiting class. I like Tyree Adams. I like Tyree Adams a lot. I think his footwork was really good today. I thought his hand placement was fantastic today. Here is something interesting about the offensive line. They were, at least the reps that they were running, they were preparing for a running game from under center. A zone, outside zone read. Think about the Green Bay Packers. Think about Sean McVay. I do think that you're going to see some of that enacted into this running game. They might be even more deadly in doing that. Brad Davis was getting after their ass today. They just look really good. They're the best unit on your team right now. It's not close. And when you're able to have a guy like Emory Jones step down and Tyree Adams step up, guys, dude's probably going to play in the NFL. I have that much confidence in him. And you got guys like Weston Davis coming in too. So I thought that was the biggest eye-opening thing, is just schematically how they're teaching on the zone blocking schemes, getting to the second level. So in zone blocking schemes, when you're in the gun, mainly you can what they call Passover. So meaning the guard and center will work. They can actually get a good double team, and then you pass off and then get to the second level. When you're under center, okay, in that zone blocking scheme, you have to go much more lateral than vertical. And that's what they're working on, getting lateral and then pushing. Getting and making creases that running backs can hit to it. It's very difficult to explain, but imagine, basically just go watch any Green Bay game, go watch any LA Rams game. That is what they were working on today in the lateral zone read. Get into the second level. Make a small crease that the back can hit into. I like that a lot. I've always liked it. Didn't run it a lot last year, but you have a different offensive coordinator, which we'll touch on. Best unit on your team. All right. You're really deep there too. I like DJ Chester at center. I don't know if they have a true backup there yet at center. Maybe Bordelon could move over there if you needed one. We'll see. If DJ Chester did go down, I have a lot of concerns. Last year, if Charles Turner went down, you had Marlon Martinez and you had DJ Chester that can fill that spot. I don't know if you have a true second center on this team until Joe Cryer gets there. Gets there until Joe Cryer gets up to date. I do think that Cryer is going to get a lot of reps here, and I'm interested to see how Big Hoss develops into that role. All right, let's go to tight ends because I want to save wide receiver for last. Tight ends might be the biggest freaks on this team. Mason Taylor, Pimpton, you have Trey'Dez Green coming in. That room is just so much filled with just absolute freak of natures. What I do think is interesting, and what we have seen a little bit here early, where Jaden Daniels' outlet was getting the ball to the outside receiver or running, I do think that Garrett Nussmeier's outlet is going to be Mason Taylor. I do think that they have a big-time connection here. And let me give you here's a hot take. Not completely going to sell on this yet. I am close to saying, remember in 2022, I said that I thought that the best connection on the team offensively was Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. We wrote an article about it. It was on our forum, ayssnetwork.com. This, about a year ago, almost to the day, Joe DeLeon and myself on our national college football show, we talked about who were going to be our breakout players for the year. Mine was Malik Neighbors, mainly due to the connection that he had with Jaden Daniels. I'm starting to get a small feeling I don't think that Mason Taylor can even come close to putting up the production clearly that Malik did. I do think that there's a very special bond, though, between Mason Taylor and Garrett Nussmeier, along with Kyron Lacy, which we'll get to in a minute. It's just, it's freaks. I do expect a little bit more 12 personnel than you saw, and traditional 12 personnel. Things that are what we call doubles. So 2 tight ends on the line of scrimmage and then 2 wide receivers on the outside. I think you see doubles strong, or what you would call ram. Ram being one tight end on the line of scrimmage and then another tight end behind him, which normally has been Mac Markway, who I thought today looked really good. I thought Mac kind of looked like he's starting to lean out a little bit more. You know, he came here just like looking like the Hulk. He's starting to lean down a little bit. He looks like a freak. He made a pretty ridiculous catch today on a wheel route. It was kind of like behind him, and he had to go up and make a one-handed grab. It was really nice. So I like what you're doing at tight end. I do think that the connection there with Mason Taylor is something that we need to continue to monitor. But I do think that there's a connection there. All right. Last thing before we get out of here. All right. And I'll field a lot of your questions. So if you have questions, let's do this. If you have questions about what we saw today in practice, hit us inside the chat. You can put hashtag Ask Blake. We'll get to as many questions as we can before we get out of here. Wide receiver. There is not a position group on LSU's team right now, to me, that is more competitive than wide receiver. And it's showing in practice. You know, they were going through multiple drills. They were going through a drill where you had one wide receiver and another wide receiver, and they had to run hook routes. This far left wide receiver had to try to catch the ball. The far right wide receiver had to either try to intercept it or knock it out of his hands to see who was better, who can go get the ball. That drill might have been the most competitive thing that I've seen so far between any group of LSU players, between any personnel group at LSU. Guys, I think you got 6 guys that are trying to be full-time starters. I thought Kyron Lacy, again, looked good. Man, if he can just stop with some of the silly drops, physically, I think Kyron Lacy can be someone who can be special. I think Chris Hilton today battled his ass off. He worked his ass off. I think that Chris Hilton, for what it's worth, this is his year, and he knows it is. And he's doing everything humanly possible to make himself better and his teammates better. But I thought that Mike Scarborough today in our post-practice interview said it the best. I'm limiting myself on Aaron Anderson because even though Aaron Anderson was winning every single rep, every one, and everything that they did, he did that last year too. This year, it's just a little bit bigger. And now that he knows what to be expected of him, now that we know, or he knows what he needs to do and is confident in what he needs to do, I think it's made him better. But him and Xavier Thomas, I got to admit, man, are going after it. So is C.J. Daniels. And I will tell you, there is no love lost with this wide receiver core. Like C.J. Daniels, if he is going to be your starter, if C.J. Daniels plays at LSU, this unit is going to make him earn it. They made him earn it today. He was running with the twos along with Xavier Thomas and Chris Hilton. Kyle Parker, Kyron Lacy are making those 2 dudes really, really work for playing time. The intensity with that unit is the highest. I think, you know what's interesting? When Cortez Hankton was hired at LSU, what was the word on the street about Cortez? Well, man, he hadn't really recruited and developed well. That's really funny because I look at this year's draft and say, man, what a dumbass Georgia fans were. How dumb was the Georgia media? Quite honestly, how dumb was Kirby for just letting Cortez walk out the door after a national title? He's got three wide receivers, that are going to get drafted. Oh, by the way, Ladd McConkey ran a 4.3. Adonai Mitchell was there because Cortez Hankton recruited and developed him. Oh, by the way, Cortez Hankton has 2 other first-round guys that he coached in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. There is not a unit more competitive right now than them. The intensity's there. The focus is there. And I just don't know if you're not Cortez Hankton, if you're not smiling from ear to ear. I don't know who's going to come out of that group. I don't know who your 3, 4, 5, 5th guy is going to be, but they're going to have to work for it. And I could see people transferring there from that room because it's just so highly competitive. And the biggest alpha dog's going to have to win there. Oh, by the way, I forgot about quarterback. Let's talk about quarterback very quickly before we get to some of your questions and exit. What do you want me to tell you? I think Garrett Nussmeier is still progressing well. I think that there's a massive battle at the second guy. Who's going to be the second guy? I still believe that if, God willing, knock on wood, that if Garrett Nussmeier went down today, A.J. Swan would be your quarterback. Mainly due to the experience that he has playing in the SEC. I think him and Ricky are battling. To be fair to both of them, I think both of them have looked sharp right now. I think AJ, from a overall IQ, has picked things up a little bit quicker than maybe you would expect. Where I think Ricky has a little bit more confidence and is gaining confidence in his game. Nobody is going to dethrone Nuss, but there is a big-time quarterback battle for number 2. If you had to ask me at the current moment who wins, I don't know. I sincerely don't know. But I tip a cap to Ricky, I tip a cap to AJ and say, hey, man, let the best man win. Mike asked me a question today that I didn't answer the way I should have.